The Space Between Her Words, a hypnotic story about desire, courage, and becoming who you really are. Before we begin, let me ask you something, and you don't need to answer it out loud. In fact, perhaps this is one of those questions that deserves to be felt before it is answered. Have you ever known what you wanted and then immediately begun explaining to yourself why you shouldn't want it? Have you ever felt a yes rise somewhere inside you, warm, quiet, instinctive, only to have another voice arrive moments later telling you should be sensible, be careful, don't make anyone uncomfortable, don't change too much, don't want too much, don't reveal too much, don't let them see too much, and perhaps if you listen to that voice for long enough, you may have become very good at living a life that other people can understand. Very good at smiling when you're expected to smile. Agreeing when agreement is easier. Remaining quiet when honesty might change things. Choosing what feels safe instead of what feels alive. And there is nothing wrong with wanting safety. But sometimes, without realizing it, a person can become so practiced at avoiding discomfort that she also begins avoiding herself. Because desire is an interesting thing. Real desire, not simply attraction, but that deeper longing for what makes you feel more fully alive. The desire to love, to create, to speak, to change, to explore, to touch, to be touched emotionally, to say yes, to say no, to stop apologizing for the shape of your own life. Those desires don't always disappear just because they are ignored. Sometimes they wait, and perhaps somewhere inside you, something has been waiting too. This is the story of a woman who discovered that the distance between the life she was living and the life she truly wanted was something no wider than the space between two words. And one day, she finally listened to what was waiting there. Avery has spent most of her life being what other people called sensible, reliable, responsible, easy to count on. She was a person who showed up, the person who handled things, the person who could keep functioning when everything around her became difficult. People often told Avery she was brave, and she believed them, because she had survived difficult things. She had endured loss. She had started again after disappointment. She had stayed strong when other people needed her. But there was something Avery didn't understand yet. Endurance and courage are not always the same thing. A person can become incredibly good at enduring a life she doesn't really want and call it bravery. Avery had. She knew how to stay. What she didn't always know was how to choose. She knew how to tolerate disappointment. She didn't know how to disappoint other people. She knew how to swallow words. She didn't know how to say, no, that isn't for me. And although Avery had known for many years that she loved women, there were still moments when she caught herself softening that truth, changing the wording, reading the room, deciding how much of herself was appropriate for each person to see. She wasn't exactly hiding. That was what she had told herself. She was simply adjusting. But when you adjust yourself often enough, you eventually forget what your natural shape felt like. And that was where Avery found herself. Nothing in her life was dramatically wrong, which strangely made everything more confusing. Her days worked, her responsibilities were handled, her life looked perfectly reasonable from the outside. Yet occasionally, usually late at night, Avery would feel it, a quiet ache, not sadness exactly, something more difficult to name. The awareness that she was participating in her own life without completely inhabiting it, as though somewhere inside her a more honest woman was waiting, and Avery could almost hear her. Almost. The evening she met Elise, Avery nearly stayed home. She had already changed into comfortable clothes. Her shoes were off, her hair was pulled back, and when her friends texted, "Come out with us, just for an hour," Avery stared at the screen. The familiar answer arrived immediately. "No, too tired. Maybe next time." She began typing, then stopped, because underneath the automatic no, there was something else. A tiny, unexpected yes. And for reasons she couldn't explain, Avery decided to follow it. She deleted the excuse, changed her clothes, put her shoes back on, and went. Years later, she would remember that insignificant little moment, because sometimes a person's life changes without announcing itself. No dramatic music, no sign, no certainty. Sometimes change begins with putting your shoes back on. The gathering was small, people talking, music low enough that conversation still mattered. Laughter drifted across the room. And Avery was listening to someone tell a story when she looked toward an open window and saw Elise. She didn't know her name yet. She only noticed the woman. Dark hair, relaxed posture, a softness in the way she listened to the person standing beside her. Nothing dramatic, and yet Avery kept looking. Then Elise turned. Their eyes met, and Avery felt something. Not love, not destiny. It was simply awareness. A sudden awareness of herself in the presence of another person. Elise smiled, and Avery looked away, almost immediately. Then Avery smiled to herself, because apparently she was 16 again. When she looked back, Elise was still smiling, and something more moved through Avery. Interesting, very interesting. They were introduced later. Elise, Avery. They shook hands, and perhaps Avery imagined it. But Elise seemed to hold her hand a fraction of a second longer than necessary. Not enough to be obvious, just enough to be noticed. And Avery noticed. Elise had a voice that made Avery want to listen. Low, warm, unhurried. She didn't speak loudly. She didn't need to. There are people who command attention by demanding it, and then there are others who make you want to move closer. Elise was the second kind. Their conversation started ordinarily. Work, music, places they traveled, places they wanted to go. But Elise had an unusual way of moving past the surface of things. At one point she asked Avery, "If you can change one thing about your life and you knew nobody would judge you for it, what would you change?" Avery laughed. "That's a dangerous question." Elise's eyes stayed on hers. "Only if you knew the answer." And there it was, a tiny pause. Avery felt something happen inside it. Elise didn't rush to speak again. She simply waited, and suddenly Avery became aware of how rarely people gave one another enough silence to tell the truth. "I probably changed more than one thing," Avery admitted. "How much more?" "A lot," Elise smiled. "Then maybe you don't need a different life." Avery waited. "Maybe you need permission." Something about that word, permission, landed unexpectedly. Avery looked away, and Elise noticed, but she didn't push. And perhaps that was why Avery wanted to move a little closer. They exchanged numbers, and afterward, Elise's voice began appearing in Avery's days, sometimes through a call, sometimes a message, sometimes as a memory of something she had said. Their conversations became longer, more personal, and Avery began anticipating them. She liked the way Elise listened, but even more, she liked who she became when she was talking to her. Less edited, less careful. Sometimes Elise would ask a question, and Avery would give the reasonable answer. Then Elise would pause, and somehow Avery could feel that Elise knew there was another answer underneath it. One evening, Elise asked, "What do you actually want?" Avery began listing practical things. Elise laughed softly. "That's what you think you should want." Avery stopped. "What do you want?" And suddenly Avery felt nervous, which was ridiculous. They were simply talking. Yet the question felt intimate. "What do you mean?" Elise's voice became softer. "You know exactly what I mean." Avery's breath changed. "Tell me something you want without explaining why you're allowed to want it." Silence. Avery felt heat rise gently through her chest. She looked toward Elise. Elise was watching her. Not demanding, not directing, waiting. Avery realized she could say anything or nothing. The choice belonged entirely to her, and strangely, that made honesty easier. "I want to stop making myself smaller so other people could feel comfortable." Elise nodded slowly. "Again?" Avery smiled. There was something playful in Elise's eyes now. "I want to do work that actually means something to me." Again? Avery's heartbeat became slightly faster. "I want to stop feeling guilty when I say no." Elise leaned a little closer. Again? Avery looked into her eyes, and this time, she didn't look away. "I want to kiss you." Silence. And oh, how different that silence felt. Elise's expression softened. Avery could hear her own breathing, could feel the warmth in her face. And for one brief second, the old reflex arrived. Take it back. Make a joke. Say you didn't mean it like that. But Avery did something different. Nothing. She allowed the truth to remain where she had placed it. Elise didn't move closer. Instead, she asked quietly, "How does it feel to say what you want?" Avery laughed nervously. "Terrifying." Elise smiled. "Anything else?" Avery breathed. And beneath that fear, there it was. "Good," Elise nodded. "Then notice that." She didn't kiss Avery that night, and strangely, Avery was glad, because something more important had happened. Avery had wanted something. She had said it, and the road had continued. The ceiling hadn't collapsed. Elise hadn't recoiled. Avery hadn't disappeared. She had simply told the truth. And once a person discovers that truth can survive being spoken, something begins to change. Over the next few weeks, Avery started noticing all the tiny places where she had banded herself. Someone asked her to do something she didn't have time to do. Her mouth almost formed the automatic yes. Then she stopped. "No, I can't this time." Her heart raced afterward. And then, nothing terrible happened. Another time, someone made a casual comment about two women holding hands. Ordinarily, Avery might have let it pass. This time she spoke. Her voice wasn't perfectly steady, but she spoke anyways. And later, driving home, she realized something extraordinary. She had always believed courage would feel like confidence, It didn't. Sometimes courage felt exactly like fear, with movement. Sometimes courage was a trembling voice that continued speaking. Sometimes bravery meant admitting, I care. I want this. That hurt me. I don't agree. I love her. This is who I am. And refusing to erase the sentence afterwards. Elise noticed the changes. You seem different, she said one evening. Different good or different bad? Different you, Avery smiled. They were sitting closer together, their shoulders almost touching, and Avery became intensely aware of these almost touches, a few inches between them, the warmth of Elise beside her, the softness of her voice. The way Elise sometimes lowered it when saying something meant only for Avery, and Avery began understanding that anticipation itself could become a sensation. Sometimes what isn't happening yet can be felt just as strongly as what already is. Elise turned toward her. You know what I think you've been doing? Avery shook her head. Waiting. For what? Permission. Avery smiled. We've had this conversation. No. Elise moved slightly closer. We've talked about it. A pause. But I'm not sure you understand it yet. Avery's breathing slowed. What haven't I understood? Avery's eyes looked directly into her eyes. Nobody is coming. Avery blinked. Nobody is coming to officially announce that you're allowed to become yourself. And Avery felt those words settle. Nobody is going to arrive with permission for you to change your life. Elise's voice became even softer. Nobody gets to authorize your desires. Pause. Your boundaries. Pause. Your love. Pause. Your voice. Elise was close enough now that Avery could feel the warmth of her presence. But that doesn't mean you have to follow every desire. Avery listened. It means you're allowed to hear them. Something deep inside Avery softened, because that was the difference. She didn't have to obey every feeling. She didn't have to become reckless. She didn't have to destroy everything to prove she was free. She simply had to stop being afraid to hear herself. Desire wasn't a command, it was information, an invitation to become curious. What makes me feel alive? What makes me shrink? What do I move toward? What do I continually postpone? Where does my body soften? Where does my body tighten? Where am I choosing love? And where am I choosing fear? And perhaps the deepest wisdom wasn't always found in immediately knowing the answers. Maybe it was found in finally being willing to ask. One evening, Avery and Elise sat talking until they both realized they had stopped paying attention to time. The conversation gradually quieted. Avery turned towards Elise. Elise was already looking at her. Neither spoke, and there it was again, the space between words. Avery's pulse quickened. Her mind began moving. Should I? What if? Maybe. Wait. And then she recognized the pattern, the same pattern she had followed through so many parts of her life. Want, fear, retreat. Want, fear, retreat. Want, and this time Avery stopped before the third step. Elise noticed. Where did you go? She whispered. Into my head. Do you want to stay there? Avery smiled. No. Then come back. 3 simple words, and Avery breathed. She felt her feet, her hands, her heartbeat. the warmth in her body, the woman beside her. This moment, this breath, here, now. Elise's gaze moved briefly towards Avery's lips, then returned to her eyes, and Avery felt that movement as though it had been touched. She inhaled slowly. Elise whispered, "You keep waiting for me to tell you to let go." Avery remained very still. "But I've never asked you to." Another pause, and somehow the pause became the most intimate thing in the room. "Maybe," Elise said softly, "you've been waiting for permission from yourself." Something opened inside Avery. Not obedience, not surrender to another person. Something far more powerful. She stopped resisting herself. Avery lifted her hand, touched Elise's cheeks, and Elise leaned gently into her palm. There was tenderness in that simple movement, a question. Avery answered by moving closer, slowly, leaving time for either woman to change her mind. Neither did. Their lips met, softly, warmly, and Avery felt the strangest realization. The kiss wasn't powerful because she was losing control. It was powerful because she wasn't. She was choosing, completely, present, aware, wanting, choosing. And there was something almost intoxicating about allowing those things to exist together. When they separated, they remained close. Avery opened her eyes. Elise smiled. Avery laughed quietly. "What?" Elise whispered. "Nothing." Then Avery stopped. She laughed again. "No?" Elise raised an eyebrow. Avery smiled. "I'm trying to stop saying nothing when something is happening." So, Elise waited. Avery took another breath. That felt incredible. Elise smiled. Better. And Avery kissed her again. Something changed after that night. Not because Avery had kissed a woman. She had kissed women before. This was different. She had kissed Elise without abandoning herself first. She hadn't waited until she was absolutely certain. She hadn't asked whether someone somewhere might disapprove. She hadn't turned desire into a courtroom where she was required to defend herself. She had listened, checked what felt true, chosen, and remained herself. Perhaps that was what authentic surrender really meant. Not surrendering your boundaries, not surrendering your judgment, not surrendering yourself to another person, but surrendering to the exhausting battle against who you already know yourself to be. Avery began changing other parts of her life. Slowly. She didn't burn everything down. She didn't need to. Instead, she became more honest. And honesty is surprisingly disruptive when you spent years becoming agreeable. She began creating again, something she had abandoned years earlier because she had convinced herself it wasn't practical. She let people see it. That was terrifying. She changed the way she spoke about herself. She stopped making jokes and diminished her own dreams. She stopped apologizing before expressing an opinion. She allowed herself to wear clothes that made her feel beautiful, not invisible, beautiful. She held Elise's hand openly. The first time she did it in a place where strangers could see. Avery felt fear, an old reflex. Her fingers almost loosened. Then Elise's hand remained warmed inside hers, and Avery asked herself the question she had begun using whenever fear appeared. Not, "I'm afraid." She already knew the answer. Instead, she asked beneath the fear, "Is there a yes?" And there was. Yes. So Avery kept holding her hand. Not everyone celebrated the changes. That surprised Avery less than she expected. Some people liked the old Avery, the one who rarely challenged them, the one who accommodated, the one whose silence made their lives easier. One person told her, "You've changed." And for the first time, Avery didn't hear it as an accusation. She smiled. "I hope so." Those 3 words felt astonishingly good. I hope so. Because change wasn't evidence that something had gone wrong. Sometimes change was evidence that something had finally gone right. Months passed, and one night Avery and Elise were together. Elise asked the same question she had asked when they first met. "What would you do if nobody needed to approve?" Avery smiled. Once that question had frightened her. Now it felt different. She thought about it, then answered, "I would live my life like my life actually belongs to me." Elise smiled, and Avery laughed. "I'd stop treating my desires like they're evidence against me." And Avery moved a little closer. "I'd stop assuming fear means no." And Elise's expression softened. And Avery knew exactly what Elise was doing now. Each question, another invitation inward, another layer, another truth. Avery leaned close enough that her voice naturally became a whisper. "I'd love who I love." Elise waited. "I'd create what I want to create." Another pause. "I'd say no more when I mean no." Closer. "And yes," Avery smiled, "when I mean yes." Elise was very still, and once again Avery could feel that extraordinary space between them, the anticipation, the awareness, the delicious knowledge that nothing had to happen, and anything that did would be chosen. Elise whispered, "That sounds brave." Avery considered it, then shook her head. No. Avery smiled. "It feels honest." And this time, Avery didn't wait for Elise to move first. There would still be frightening days. Avery understood that now. There would be moments when she slipped into old habits, moments when she worried what people thought, moments when she waited for reassurance, moments when being authentic felt much harder than disappearing. But authenticity wasn't something Avery had to perform perfectly. It was something she could return to again and again and again, one honest decision at a time, because she had finally learned that fear and truth can occupy the same body. You can feel afraid and still move forward. You can feel uncertain and still know what you want. You can choose desire without being controlled by desire. You can surrender without surrendering yourself. You can be vulnerable without becoming weak. You can love someone deeply and remain completely your own. And you can be seen, really seen, without immediately reaching for something to hide behind. Perhaps that was what Avery had been longing for all along. Not simply Elise, although she loved Elise. Not simply romance, not simply a kiss. She had been longing for herself. The Avery who didn't need to check every room before deciding how much of herself could enter. The Avery who could speak her desires without apologizing. The Avery who understood that being a woman who loved women was not some troublesome fact to carefully manage. It was simply true, beautifully, ordinarily, completely true. And the same was true of so many other parts of her. Her dreams were allowed to matter. Her pleasure was allowed to matter. Her discomfort was allowed to matter. Her intuition was allowed to matter. Her no mattered, her yes mattered, her voice mattered. And the more Avery stopped fighting those truths, the quieter something inside her became. Because perhaps the deepest peace doesn't come from finally convincing everybody else to understand who you are. Perhaps it comes from no longer needing to convince yourself.
I learned to be the steady one, the hands that never shake, the heart that carries everyone, no matter what it takes. I knew how to keep smiling, how to say that I was fine, how to live a life that worked without feeling it was mine. I changed my shape for every room, softened every truth, left the brightest parts of me waiting to be used. But somewhere underneath it all, a voice I couldn't quiet said, you were never born to disappear inside the life you led. Then one small yes beneath a no became a road I had to know. I put my shoes back on that night and walked toward my own life. Beneath the fear, there's a yes, a quiet truth inside my chest, a voice that says, you're allowed to love this deeply, love this loud. I don't need the whole world's blessing, I don't need to second guess it. My heart is not a thing to hide, my love is not a crime. Beneath the fear, there's a yes, and this time I'm choosing mine. You asked me what I really wanted without explaining why, and every careful answer fell away beneath your eyes. I said I wanna take up space, I want my no to still be kind, I wanna make the things I love and leave my guilt behind. And with a trembling breath I said the truth I couldn't miss, I wanna move a little closer, I wanna feel your kiss. The world did not collapse around the words I let remain. I learned an honest heart can shake and still not turn away. Courage didn't feel like certainty, it felt like fear that moved with me. A shaking voice, an open hand, a choice I finally understand. Beneath the fear, there's a yes, a quiet truth inside my chest, a voice that says, you're allowed to love this deeply, love this loud. I don't need the whole world's blessing, I don't need to second guess it. My heart is not a thing to hide, my love is not a crime. Beneath the fear, there's a yes, and this time I'm choosing mine. You never came to rescue me or tell me what to do, you only held a little space where I could hear what's true. You showed me wanting isn't weakness, desire is not a chain, it's simply information from the self I couldn't name. And when the space between us filled with everything unsaid, I felt my body soften. Wow, the questions filled my head. You whispered, come back to this moment, and I returned a quiet truth inside my chest, a voice that says you're allowed to love this deeply, love this loud. I don't need the whole world's blessing, I don't need to second guess it. My heart is not a thing to hide, my love is not a crime. Beneath the fear, there's a yes, and this time I'm choosing mine. I can surrender the battle without surrendering me. I can fall into the moment and still remain completely free. I can love a woman deeply with my boundaries held strong. I can say no without shame and know my yes belongs. I can tremble and keep speaking, I can fear and still be brave. I can change without apologizing for the life I choose to make. And if somebody says I'm different, I'll no longer turn away. I'll smile with every piece of me and say I hope I've changed. Beneath the fear, there's a yes, a living truth inside my chest, a voice that says you're allowed to stand in love and say it proud. I don't need to know world's blessing, I am finished second guess it. My heart is not a thing to hide, this beautiful love is mine. Beneath the fear, there's a yes, and I will hear it every time. Beneath the fear, there's a yes, a road returning to myself. My dreams are worthy of the light, my intuition has been right. My pleasure matters, my voice matters, my no and yes belong to me. I'm not waiting for permission, I am already free. I spent so long believing I was longing to be found, but the woman I was missing had been waiting all along. Now I enter every room with nothing left behind. I love who I love openly, and I live